everybody, my name is Jamal from Jay's Internet Solutions. Welcome to episode 4 of Jay's TV. Today we are going to talk about cloud computing. Now, what is this term? Some of you might have heard it, some of you might not have. Cloud computing simply means internet computing, right? So cloud is a sort of fancy word, a new word that people are using to describe the internet, because everything is up in the cloud, up in the internet, right? And cloud computing is a big component of the Web 2.0 era that we're living in at the moment. And one of the principles of Web 2.0 is using the web as a platform, right? Now, what does that mean? It means that more and more we are putting all of our data, all of our information on the internet, okay? I want to talk about why we would want to use the web as a platform for our businesses, right? And to understand a platform, let's go back to the PC era, right? Where we all had computers and all our information was on that computer, right? The problem with that is that if our computer crashed or if we were not at our computer, then we would not have access to our information, right? So, but that was the first stage where we were, and that was sort of where we were comfortable at that stage. Then we moved a bit further from that, and we had the network scenario, right, where computers in a company, in a building, were networked together, and they were all connected to a big computer called a server, right? And all the data, files, documents, etc., and even applications were stored on that server. So everyone would access the server, and individual computers would no longer be that significant, right? So if an individual computer crashed or it wasn't there, it got removed for some reason, then you could still work from another computer using your access codes, and you could still connect to the server and you could still do your work, right? So that stepped things up a bit. And then some companies, especially larger ones, moved a bit further where you could access the network remotely, right? So you didn't even have to be in the same building, but you could dial into the server and you could access that information. And then obviously we got into wireless technology a couple of years ago, and you could access networks via wireless technology without having even a network cable. So we've advanced pretty much in those areas. But the problem with a server client scenario is that if the server went down, then no one could work. And a lot of companies still have that situation. And sometimes you talk to people online, you talk to them on the phone, and they say they can't work for the whole morning because their server's down, and the technical guys are busy working on it. And that's still common today. So all the information is on the server, and everyone is dependent on that server. So in the Web 2.0 era, we've moved now to another step where the web is the platform. So all our information is stored on the web, right? Our documents, our files, all our information sits on the internet. And there is a lot of people, don't like this because there's a risk. The information is now out of your hands, it's out of your control. But I would urge everyone to sort of move beyond that, because there are much more benefits to having your information in the cloud as opposed to having your information sort of secure in your little company and on your sort of equipment. Because the first thing is backups, right? How many people have lost data due to sort of viruses or due to hardware crashes, etc. And we don't always have proper backup systems, right? Whereas Google and these other companies that provide cloud services, their backup processes are much more efficient than a small business normally is, right? If your small business backups regularly, that's awesome, and that's great for you. But generally speaking, I speak to people often. I also ask them these questions, and a lot of people back up. If you ask them if they back up, they say yes, and you ask them when was the last time they back up, they say 3 months ago. Now, in 3 months, we have a lot of new data in 3 months, so that backups doesn't really have that much value. So these online companies, these cloud service companies, their backup efficiency plans are much more sort of better than ours, right? And then besides the backups, these services improve over time, right? So as we use these services, the companies that provide them increase the features of these services, right? I'll give you an example. One application suite that we use in our business is called Google Apps, right? Google Apps is a suite provided by Google. We use the free version, right? There are paid versions as well that sort of take the service to another level. But we use the free version, and it's very handy. It has email capacity like Gmail, so it's basically similar to Gmail. It has a calendar which you can sort of access there and have multiple calendars in that. And it has a Google Docs section where you can create documents and spreadsheets and all of those type of documents. And then it also has Google Sites. And the fifth thing it has is Google Contacts. So all my contacts, if I punch in a new contact on my iPhone, it immediately syncs, it synchronizes with Google Apps. And if I switch my iPhone off, I can go into Google Apps and I can access that person's telephone number that I just saved on my iPhone. And if I lose my phone, by any chance, I can still access all my contacts via Google Apps. So just with the Google Apps, every 2 months or every month, they'll have new features, small incremental features and updates that make the system better, right? Now, if you have software that you've installed on your computer, right, that software stays as it is from the time that you installed it, right? So if the company like Microsoft or any other company, if they update the software, you have to actually go and purchase the new version, right? And in the cloud computing sort of atmosphere, that is no longer needed. You get the new updates as the company sort of improves it, and it's seamless because it's on the internet. So the next time you connect to the internet, you all of a sudden have these new features, right? So there's a lot of advantages to cloud computing. Another thing is that cloud computing costs less, right? So a lot of these services are free, they don't cost anything, and some of them you do pay for, like FreshBooks, which I really advise you if you're a small business and you need an accounting service, which all small businesses do need, then use FreshBooks. It's at freshbooks.com, and that service you have to pay for. It's not free, but it's a minimum service. It's $100 or $200 every month, and it allows you to do invoicing. It does expenses, right? Expense tracking. It does quotations and what they call on Facebook as estimates, but it's quotations for many of us. And then also it tracks time. So if you want to track time that you're working on certain projects, you can use FreshBooks for that, right? So, and there's many other software applications, and in later episodes we are going to go more into cloud computing, the value of it, the ROI, the return on investment, also how these cloud computing businesses are expanding. We're going to look at some of them, and then we are going to look at individual software applications, like I've mentioned Google Apps, so we're going to go a bit more into that. We are going to go a bit more into FreshBooks. We're going to talk about something called Dropbox, right, which is a very useful service. And at the moment, for this episode, what I want you to sort of get your head around is that the web is the platform of the future. Broadband and internet access is getting cheaper, and it's getting faster as well. So it does make sense, it makes business sense, and it makes every other kind of sense to move your data into the cloud, as it were. And there are lots of benefits to that, and in later episodes we are going to explore that. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and next time we'll talk about the psychology of Web 2.0. And until then, crush it.